Hello, my dear friends. For those who don't know me, I'm Brother Sean, or also known as the Barefoot Franciscan Monk. And recently I read rather, that many people today are using religion as a spiritual insurance, in particular for the afterlife. And I would like to ask, is there any truth in that? What do they mean by spiritual insurance for the afterlife? What's that saying to your heart? Well, I can only speak from mine, and I guess there's an element of truth in that, because as a younger man growing up, my religious family very much influenced my thinking, and for I would say the best part of 56 years as a Catholic Christian, I don't think I was really a good Christian, because I was extremely intolerant, but I was also full of guilt. Full of guilt, yeah, because I guess I was brainwashed into believing that I had to push myself to extremes and adhere to every teaching. And a lot of the teachings were good and deeply inspirational, but there were some teachings that left you feeling withdrawn, depressed, anxious, fearful. And especially when it came round to Lent. As the Muslims have Ramadan, the Christians have Lent. And in Lent you would go through various ablutions, rituals, say lots of different prayers, even deny yourself chocolate, cigarettes, alcohol. But the underlying fear within my journey as a Catholic Christian who's now an enclosed monk, who embraces interfaith, who embraces all faiths, because we all share the same loving Father, Mother, God. But yet, you would do things so as to appease God. And I guess, in a way, a form of spiritual insurance. But I remember last year when my mother passed away, and yes, it was painful for her. Painful because she was frightened, because she was of the old school. She had the fear of God drummed into her as a little girl growing up in Glasgow. And though my mum died at 83, she suffered, and she was petrified on her deathbed. I honestly don't think one could say it was a peaceful and happy death. And that is really distressing for the family. But looking back on my mum's journey, a woman I love dearly, but clearly a woman who was driven by fear, low self-worth even, because I don't think she ever knew what unconditional love was. She had a great fear of God, as all her children did, and still do. But you know, it was always an hilarious experience taking my friends who would come over with me from England to visit my mum, because they weren't Catholic Christians, they were from different faiths or none, and they would walk into her studio apartment and they would see all this religious memorabilia. She had the statue of St. Jude there, which she had ever since I was a little boy, and you could see round its neck where it had been glued upon over glue, on top of more glue, because at times when he didn't answer her prayer she would throw him. So we had lots of funny moments there, but she'd every statue under the sun, every holy picture. And when I used to phone her on a Sunday, she'd be getting mass on the telly or saying her rosary. She was a devout soul, but full of fear. And I remember one day when I could see that she was struggling with her breathing and she was really troubled. And I said, "Mum, would you like me to pray with you?" And she went into shock. "Oh no, oh no, oh no, 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 no." And I thought, why not? But I respected her decision, but she said to me, "Just say a prayer to the angels for me." I said, "Mum, I'll do one better than that. I will ask your guardian angel to come and speak with you." And she then let loose a barrage of Irish expletives. I shan't repeat them all, but more or less she said, "Jesus, do you want me to wake up dead?" She was petrified. And she was doing all of this ritualistic stuff. And whilst, yes, I say the rosary myself, and it's a beautiful devotion to the Mother of God, but she'd shackled her life with so much guilt and fear. And I guess really as a spiritual insurance that she wouldn't go to hell. It was drummed into her psyche, and it left her fearful, not fearless. And what's so sad is you can see the impact of that fear in a lot of people's lives. And I know a few years ago when I was running retreats around the country in different parts of the world, I would meet brothers and sisters from my faith, Catholic Christians, especially in Scotland, where there was a strange experience where many had become disenfranchised from their church for whatever reason, and they became what they class today as a lapsed Catholic. But when I got to know them and they got to know me, they felt comfortable and they would share things with me. But I'd heard it all before. They loved God, but they didn't like what the church was doing. So I would ask them to share it. And this lady, who was a devout Catholic Christian, in fact, she was a daily communicant where she received Christ each day in Holy Communion. Her husband went off with a young floozy. And when the parish priest got wind of it, poor old Agnes would walk up to the altar in complete awe of the sacrament, and then the priest would say, "No, you're not allowed." And she fell away from her church because she was publicly humiliated. And she shared with me, "How could he do that to me? I've done no wrong." I said, "I know, but you're not on your own. There are many like you." So the poor soul lost her faith, and understandably so. But how cruel is that teaching? And I believe that that isn't what Jesus said. That's man's interpretation. So they try and fill their life with doing little pious acts away from their church so as not to be condemned to hell. But they were already living in hell because they were denied love, the love of God. And they would cling to anything like a spiritual insurance so that they would be found worthy and acceptable. And then again, we're aware of what's going on in other religious beliefs, especially when you hear of what the Taliban do to their women, where they deny the young girls education, where they're a second-class citizen. Is that what the Prophet Muhammad insisted on? I don't think so. I think we're guilty of many great crimes where we've inflicted unfairly one's ego on the innocents, God's children, where women are raped in marriage, where they're a plaything, and where there's no unconditional love. Is that right? And then you read when the husband who has done such atrocities to his to his daughters and to his wives, he can't cope with it, so he starts beating himself up and doing extra punishments as a spiritual insurance. so as not to win God's displeasure. So what can we learn from this short video? I think what we have to remind ourselves is that we are a child of a loving God. Whether we're Catholic, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Sikh, Methodist, Jew, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I am at peace within my heart, and that I try and understand what is the mindset of God. What is God saying to my heart? Well, I know what He's saying to mine. Be free of dogma. Be free of religion that oppresses my spirit within you. And do not judge others. I know as a young boy growing up, I did unfairly judge others. But today, we have to take responsibility for our relations with brothers and sisters of different faiths. And that's why when Francis of Assisi guided my heart in 2008 as I knelt at his tomb in Assisi to reach out to all faiths and none and establish a lay monastic community for men and women of all faiths who live a spiritual life from their own home but offer them a fraternal love, where we can unite as brothers and sisters from our own home via the internet for morning and evening prayer and for our vigil for peace. And that way we're freed of all that religious nonsense that's not about God. It's more about male ego. So let us just pray. Father, Mother God, you created each child in your image and likeness, whether they're black or white, whether they're Christian or non-Christian. Religion doesn't matter. What matters is your love. Help us today to reach out and see you in all faiths, and to accept that all faiths, all beliefs share the one loving Father, Mother God. And if that is true, then allow us to be humble, to be respectful, and to be forgiving. Namaste. Shalom. Inshallah. Pax et bonum. Om Shanti. Solo de Caritas. Peace and thank you.